I had been asked about 7 times to get married. There were different men just popping up. You all heard me tell the story about the one that popped up when I was in church one Sunday, talking about, there was something about me. Could I marry him? And I was like, I don't even know. Yo, I only saw you such a place. And then months later, found out he was actually engaged to someone else. Uh, and the pastor called me and I was like, wait, what? And I talked to his fiance and I was like, man, I only known him for a few months. Nothing happened here. Forgive me. He didn't tell me he was engaged. And I'm telling you all these stories because these things happen all the time and we pretend that they don't happen. I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't even know he was engaged. Go ahead and marry him. That fool went off, got married, went to Jamaica, called me from Jamaica. I thought it was one of my family members. I went nuts. Now, we've been in the same city for God knows how long, and I never saw him again after that. I find out he's still married, but had cheated so much, the pastor sat him down and all this. He never stopped doing what he was doing. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Believe them the first time. And oftentimes, let me see if Cherie can get back in. And oftentimes, we believe we can shift and change them. I'll be the one that's different for him. I'll be the one that's different for her. She is, Alexandra says she's back. I'm going to pull Cherie back in. Let me find her. Cherie. She should be able to come back in though. Hold on, Cherie. And so we tell ourselves that this is what it's supposed to be, or I can get that man to be something else. And so all these men, and so one woman one day said to me, how is it that you've gotten all these marriage proposals and I can't even get one? I don't know. Maybe because I wasn't looking, I didn't want, I wasn't asking for, I was just living my life. And so people are constantly watching. People are I keep telling you all this. People are constantly watching us.
Sure they're doing.
So we
No, that's true. I mean, I think, and everyone has a different journey. Everyone has a different experience. And so for me, I felt like I had to be intentional for a multitude of reasons. But the biggest reason was that I traveled every week for work. So just kind of being still was a little difficult. If you're in a different city every week and you're in a hotel and, it was just kind of difficult to kind of get your footing. And so that was one reason why I knew just kind of getting a little bit more intentional about what my goals and my desires were. I didn't act differently. I wasn't being different, but I was just knowing that there was an end goal that I had. And so in any way, shape, or form, when you have a goal, you just do some things toward that goal. So yeah, that was my journey and my experience. It's not everyone. Some people stumble upon marriage. Some
right.
people aren't looking for it. Some people are, hey,
Hi, Tracy.
speaking of, um, but yeah, I mean, I think we have a really, we have to absolutely have things that we've had to work on and stuff like that. But we have a really amazing marriage and life together and all those
Mhm.
things. And so I think that intentionality was good for us.
Yes, yeah. And then there are men who wanted to live the sweet boy life.
Hold on. Oh my
Okay.
God. Let me go
There are
off.
men who wanted to live the sweet boy life. Laverne, we're back on YouTube. Who want to live the sweet boy life their entire lives. They play around. They had a bunch of women, all the things. Yeah, he's still. Marguerite said he's still cheating. They had a bunch of women, and then they start to get sick, which is why you see particularly black women are like, I don't want you now that you're all broken down and you're getting into your 60s and your 70s and you're looking for somebody to take care of you. So that it happens on both ends, right?
It
And
does.
and you get to, we have free will. You get to make the decision when you're younger and you're doing what you want to do and I don't want to get married and all those other things. Nice. But as you start to get older, you want that companionship. And nobody wants to grow old by themselves. Nobody.
I don't
I
think so.
don't
Yeah.
care what
Yeah.
you say. Nobody
Yeah,
wants to grow old by themselves.
I agree. I
You
agree with
know.
that for sure.
So
I
it's
agree.
it's 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 an interesting time for so many of us, and we have to learn how to not let people dictate who we marry and why we marry. Right? It's 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 an interesting place to be for all of us. Now, my husband, as I said, had been single for 20 years, and I remember going to his school. There was a fashion show with with a group of his students, and so he asked me to join the fashion show. And I remember getting into the elevator because I said I'm here to see Mr. So and so, and lady, she said, I'll walk you to his classroom, and she says, well, how do you know him? We love him so much. And I said, we've been friends for a long time. She says, but how do you know him? We've never seen him bring anybody like this. And I said, I'm his wife. That woman lost her cookies in the elevator. She turned beet red. This can't be. How is our Mr. Sanders married? Nobody told me. Flipped completely out. We get to his classroom and she says, Mr. Sanders, you've been married? He said, she all right. They fell out laughing. When he told the parents that he was getting married that summer, they all came over to me in tears. Please don't take him away from us. Is he going to go? So I said, he got to take care of me. So he's going to keep his job. But, there's some men, some women who have decided that they don't want to do this for a while. And then when they finally decide to do it, people think that they've been coerced or something else. When you fall in love, you fall in love. The trick is
Absolutely.
not to let that person get by you or away from you because of what other people may think or what other
Correct.
people may desire. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know,
So, and I miss Andre. I saw Andrea's conversation. Alexander said, I was engaged yet the universe disclosed that he was cheating. I realized also I was giving up too much of myself and had healing and growing to do. Alexandra, do you know? And that's my one thing I will not tolerate in a relationship. Two, abuse and cheating. It is just a
mm,
non-negotiable for me. While other
hmm
people are negotiating and can be negotiating, and this is what we're doing, and blah 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 blah. And
hmm
I know he's cheating. I know women in this city who have husbands, high-profile husbands who have been cheating ungodly. And I remember having a conversation with one of them, and I said, "Why do you stay? You ready for this? Why do you think she said she stays, Cherie?"
a lot of people stay because of like this external pressure, kind of what other people will think
Yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. Like
You know what she's
them
you know
being
what
apart would be devastating
yeah.
for one person or another, their
You know what she
image
told
or
me?
whatever.
She says, my husband is so high profile and we always end up in the top fold on the front page of the newspaper. This was years and years and years ago.
Hmm.
I said, so you're staying married because he's high profile and you want to be in the front? We're part of high society, she says. Miserable. Could not get her entire self together. And I'm talking at least 12 years ago. And I looked at
I
her and I
mean,
said,
but let me say this, and people, it may not be a popular thought. People deal with cheating with people that don't have anything, and so there's different things that keep people together. Like, so if I'm gonna deal with some cheating, at least I'm assuming if somebody's high profile, I'm living a halfway decent lifestyle. We would just have to have some agreements and some terms. Now, that's not my thing either. And thankfully, I haven't had to, deal with that in my marriage.
mm,
And we still have a young marriage, but I think we're pretty committed to one another. Um, but I dealt with cheating from the pancake marriage. So, I mean, if I'm going to do that, at least in my head, I'm going to carve out to be like, hey, okay, at least I can live this lifestyle. And at this age, living this lifestyle may be okay for me. Now, I'm not saying that that would be my resolve, but I am saying that I can understand why people do it because we deal with cheating with less, so to speak. And that's all I'm saying. So a lot of times then the pressure is like we've got this high profile, we've got these things together, or we've
mhm,
done these things, or whatever the reasons
mhm,
are. And people have all kinds of reasons. Now, what I wouldn't be is miserable. So what I would be is like, okay, if you're doing your thing, I'll do my thing, and we'll stay married, and we'll live this,
mhm,
we'll live, that
mhm.
union in that way for that reason. But I'm not going to be
Mhm.
miserable. Now, that is where I would draw the line.
So, in my first marriage, one night I got a call from a gentleman who worked in government, 2 o'clock in the morning, and he says, "Do you know where your husband is?" And I said, "No, but it's 2 o'clock in the morning." He says, "Well, I'm following him with my wife." And I think that was my breaking point. I kind of had suspected that there was some
Mm-hmm.
infidelity going on. So I
Mm-hmm.
left. When I left, the person who was my best friend at the time said to me, I would not have left him. You're living this great lifestyle. You don't have to work. You've got a great car. You've got a great life. He's doing, he's high profile. And that was, I think, was the beginning of the end of our friendship.
Yeah, you've shared that before. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I kept saying, if I say to you as my friend, it's not my blood pressure was so freaking high. I was
Mm-hmm.
going through so much in that moment. I had to make the decision whether it was better for me to, and I never, cheating is just non-negotiable for me. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sharing fluids with anybody else. If you can't keep
Mm-hmm.
it to yourself, I want no parts of it, right? And
Right.
yes, people, I'm speaking transparently. So when I
Right.
see to each his own. Do what works for you and make you okay. But it's absolutely a non-negotiable for me, right?
No, and I
But she
understand
but
that.
she
That's
was
a non
like, I wouldn't have
me
left
too.
him.
My
You
only
got
point
you got
being is right. My only point being is that some people
yeah.
do decide
They
to.
do. They
To me,
do.
like it's no different than saying I would marry somebody like somebody gay. I like it. Just to me, people get to a point where they figure out where they are in life and what they
Yes.
want and how said whatever the circumstance is
Mm-hmm.
will feel whatever the need is that they
Mm-hmm.
have, whatever the void
Mm-hmm.
that it's filling,
Mm-hmm.
and the other aspects of it for them may not be as bad. Now all I am saying is if I did that now, cheating is a something I don't even think
Mm-hmm.
about. Like
Mm-hmm.
I rest so well now
Mm-hmm.
because that's just nothing that I think about in my
Right.
marriage, and
Mm-hmm.
I would not tolerate, and I'd be so disappointed in Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
But my only point is, if someone has chosen to do that,
Mm-hmm.
my caveat would be I would not be miserable in doing it. It'd be something that we agree that this is what we're doing for whatever these reasons
Mm-hmm.
are.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't be out there doing what you want to
Right.
do and happy as the lamb, and I'm
Right.
miserable. Like I would not be miserable. That would be my
Mm-hmm.
non-negotiable. Me,
Yeah.
my mental, emotional, spiritual health. That would be
Yeah.
that for me.
Yeah. Oswald Barrett says cheating is non negotiable. Let them go. Talking from experiences, it is better in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Peace of
Mm-hmm.
mind is something you can't buy. All the
Absolutely.
money in the world cannot buy your peace of mind. So I get it. Let me
And I
see.
absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. Laverne says, that's what I have been telling my single friends that are between 45 and 50. Get a healthy man if possible, because the relationship may not be what you expect it to be otherwise. Monica is cracking up. Uh, Alexandra says, at Laverne, it's called a hospice marriage. No, you all did not.
Yeah, for some reason I can't get us back up on YouTube.
Oh. Marguerite says, often people stay for the money. And that was the thing. That was when my friend realized that the integrity that I had, because he was making, he is worth millions of dollars today. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I knew what his trajectory was. He's making a ton of money, but it was
Mm-hmm.
not worth the what I felt was abuse, And I remember when I would go into the home when the children were graduating from college or whatever else, and he would say, "Do so and so," and his current wife was like, "You you just." It's like he's afraid of you. Yes, he's not afraid of me. I said he respects me because he understands that there's certain things that I'm not going to do. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to teach people how to treat you. And I mean, we
Absolutely.
have a good friendship now. When something's going on with the children, I call, or he may call and say, "All right, what are we doing? The twins were being born. All right, I got all their stuff. You do the other stuff. You do the loving cooey stuff. I'll buy their cribs and all the other, like we work together. So even
Mm-hmm.
though we got divorced and we're no longer in a relationship and we're both remarried, we literally work together as parents. It's important. So I didn't hold on to the, oh my God, you've been doing this, and oh my God, you did none of my business. I walked away, I rolled out, I'm cool. I'm cool. So we have to be able to let things go and manage. Why are you cracking up, Cherie? Because somebody says,
Margaret, Marguerite said, I agree with Sharice and my husband never cheated. However, I told him if he did, make sure he has enough money to take care of all of us. I know that's right. Don't be coming and disrupting my home. I done got comfortable.
am trying to tell you, it is
Hey.
so for people to listen.
But what I think the conversation really boils down to is, I know, when me and my friends were young, there were these, I wouldn't do this and I wouldn't do that and I wouldn't, and then you get older and life really happens, and you
Hmm.
have, either you have a relationship or you're front row seat to a girlfriend or someone who
Hmm.
has a relationship, or even a parent who has a
Hmm.
relationship. I
Hmm.
can't tell you how many of my friends are like, oh my God, my parents got divorced. I was 40 and my dad had been cheating, or whatever the case may be. And I think the reality is that life, the way life turns, a lot of things that you don't think you would tolerate. I mean, the first conversation we're having is women marrying gay men. Like
Hmm.
the first, you definitely get a lot more flexible,
Yeah.
because to your point, companionship is really important.
Hmm.
Um, and I say this all the time with Tracy. I'm like, babe, I hope we are like the Notebook. I do not, now that we've been together, like, I do not, want to live on this earth without him.
Hmm.
Like, I think about that companionship. I mean, would I find someone else, or would someone else, come to me?
Hmm.
Possibly. I'm assuming he could potentially find someone else, but I'm prayerful that, in 25 years or so, we
Hmm.
just both go away together, or
Yeah.
close to
Yeah.
that, because
Yeah.
I don't want to live without him,
Yeah. I
you
feel
know.
the same way about Mr. Sanders.
Hmm.
Whew, like yesterday, he tried to take off the front door because he thought it wasn't working. It wouldn't open when it was really locked. Girl, I was like, you got the whole toolbox and everything. But my husband always says to me, if you go, I go. I would. I
Yeah.
am not. I have no interest in being without you in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we lit. And one day I said to him, I need to divorce you. And he said, well, you tell your next husband we come as a package deal, okay? Because I was so mad, and he said that, and I laughed until I couldn't breathe. And I realized, look, we're gonna be all right. We're absolutely gonna be all right. Monica says, I must share hubby and I love story. Child, it's something, and 40 years long. Laverne says, proven to family and friends that the relationship will work. Saving face, looking good for the outside and for money are reasons for staying. Not okay, but it is a thing. Cheating is not always a deal breaker for some people. That is absolutely true.
That is
It's
absolutely true.
absolutely true.
That is absolutely true.
I see
Exactly.
Marguerite's comment. She said, to my knowledge. Laverne says, yes, sometimes the established relationship is it makes sense in the moment to stay together. May not be miserable. One live on the east side, other on the west side. A lot of marriages broke up during COVID, child. Oh,
They
when they had
did,
to
because
be in
people
their
had to
homes
live
with each
together.
other, they were like,
I know.
oh, the divorce lawyers were making a ton of money during COVID because
Yeah, I
folks were
even
walking away.
so when Tracy and I were on 2020, when
Hmm.
the 24 months that changed the world,
Hmm.
the segment was about love, but the segment, it started, we were the focal segment of the love
Hmm.
segment, but it started with people who had divorced.
Hmm.
So yeah, you had all kinds of relationships where people, maybe like me, they traveled 75-80% of the time,
Hmm.
or you just, you're away from each other enough where
Hmm.
when you're together, whatever the issues are don't rise, because you're
Hmm.
at both at work all day, or just
Hmm.
whatever. And so yeah, a lot of people, I have a really good girlfriend who she was like, and they are beautiful now, and they have been married a long time before,
Hmm.
like 10 years or so before COVID. But COVID, they both traveled for work. She was
Hmm.
like, wow, I kind of have to figure out, do I like you? And they
Yes.
worked through it, and they're doing really
Yeah.
well. But that transitional period of this
Hmm.
one kind of reality, because I'm reading a lot of relationship books of late, because
Hmm.
we're coming up on 4 years
Hmm.
on the 22nd. So,
Hmm.
we've gone through ebbs and flows and things like
Hmm.
that. And one of the big things is, like, we forget and stop making like these love deposits. Like,
Hmm.
life just starts happening, whether people have children or they go back to school to get some kind of
Or they have
certification,
businesses. Yeah.
or you buy a business, and then
Hmm.
all of a sudden you're only talking about those things. You're not talking about the depth of getting to know each other, because you feel like you know each other now. And you kind of stop that curiosity, and you start being the day-to-day stuff,
Hmm.
and that
Hmm.
you stop making your love deposits with each other, and you stop necessarily being super compassionate towards each other. You're not looking at each other in the same way that you did when you were
Hmm.
courting your spouse.
Hmm.
And so as a result, you kind of start to get almost like you're taking withdrawals from each other. So the
Mm-hmm.
love can be diminished, and you have to be
Mm-hmm.
constantly doing things that are depositing into people's love banks. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
something Tracy and I really, really work on, like really
All right.
depositing into our love banks, because the day-to-day stuff grind is kind of the grind, and we have to
Mm-hmm.
keep the relationship in the middle of that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Laverne says, I used to fight my son's father and his women, girl, but never left him alone. I had to said if he didn't die, that would still be my life, girl. No, ma'am. Yet there are people who get judged for having an open marriage or being polygamous. Polyamorous. That's Alexandra. Laverne says, yes, Alexandra, just agreed to be in an open marriage. That is why I never speak on Islamic marriage when the husband has more than one wife. It's their choice. At least it's honest. Tamara says the exact same thing happened to someone I know. Well, a few people. The husband called her and told her to come and get her husband before the coroner does. Ooh. Oh, well, okay. Laverne says, yes, Cherie. Marguerite says, I agree with Cherie. To my knowledge, my husband never cheated. Okay, we got that. Hospice marriage. Okay. So, also the energy of the people they're cheating with is also with us, also always present. I saw the woman my fiance was cheating with in a dream. Wow. Viola says, my husband said, if he can't put his hands on me, no one can ever tell him what they saw me wrong. I can't read that. I don't know how to read that. Laverne says, Marguerite, I was the same with my son's father, and he wasn't my husband. Bring the money for my sons and I, or our relationship was going. Y'all are crazy. Viola says, I guess I will be single forever at this age. Alexandra says, I read about that Mr. Sanders and hollered. Mr. Sanders, something else. The Notebook is one of hubby and I. It's mine too. I can't watch a Notebook without crying, Monica. It's really, really interesting. I think I got all of them.
And
Let
Viola,
me.
Viola, Viola, you saw us on, yeah. So you saw us before you even
Yes,
knew us,
yes. Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
that was before Booker's and everything.
Yeah, yeah. And so, it's 7:26 and I just want to say thank you. Laverne says they flagged the YouTube probably in the very beginning when I was talking about because there's some folks, but I've seen worse things on YouTube. So I understand why somebody probably complained that didn't like the conversation about us talking. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It happens sometimes. It's okay. It's cool.
Oh, is that what?
Um Oh yeah, because there are folks who believe what they believe. But my thing is, if you don't like what I'm talking about, move on to someplace else. It's just that simple. You don't have to sit here and
Controversy?
listen. Uh, Teacher Nerd says that would be me because in these financial times, I take care of all of us. I am just saying. So lots going on. Thank you so much again, my sister, because I have a client after I get off the air. Tell us where we can find you as if we don't know, but there may be somebody who's listening for the first time.
There might be. So we're at Booker's Restaurant and Bar, 5021 Baltimore Avenue. This Saturday for Mother's Day, there is a jazz and dinner event. Brunch is pretty much a done deal. So, and I love us, but I wouldn't come
Mm.
on brunch anyway. Mother's Day brunch. And we have on Sunday nights, we have Sunday supper. So we have music on Sunday nights. We have a guitarist on Wednesdays, and
Hmm.
he's really, really great. And then we have live entertainment on Fridays at Booker's.
Hmm.
So join us this summer.
All right. And where's
All
Booker's
right.
located, darling?
Oh, it is located at 5021 Baltimore Avenue in West
Yes.
Philadelphia.
And that man that just kissed her is not some date. That's her husband that was walking out the door. Folk be like, who was that man that kissed her?
That was my
Mm.
husband,
Nosy
Tracy.
and wrong. Nosy
No,
and wrong.
no, Sierra.
All right, my darling. This episode of Mornings with Mova is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. Bye bye. Bye, darlings. Okay. Bye. Bye, Cherie. Bye, darlings.